Okay, well, let's get going at 6 o'clock. So welcome to the Wednesday, February 10th meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees. I'd like to stand first and for Mike to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, since you got the flag there.
Got it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, can you start with a roll call of the trustees?
Sure. Mayor Colopy,
Here.
Trustee McGrain,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Herzog,
Here,
Trustee Contino,
Here.
and Trustee Arbogast.
Here.
Okay, so first off, a big warm welcome to Buffy, who has accepted the appointment to fill the trustee position that I vacated when I became mayor. So Buffy, just for the record, you want to introduce yourself in case there's somebody who doesn't know who you are? Go ahead. You got the floor.
Thank you. Hi, Buffy Arbogast. Thank you so much for the appointment. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a business owner in Millbrook for the past 15 years. I own Babette's Kitchen, and I look forward to working with everyone.
All right, good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
welcome.
Look forward to working with you too, Buffy.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, administrative business. So first off, minutes from the last meeting. Sarah sent out a note with the minutes included. Any questions or comments about those minutes?
I don't
Okay.
recommend changes.
No, no changes?
No changes for me.
So Buffy, we'll go through this now and we'll ask for approval of each of the trustees. And you can say a, nay, or in this case, if you haven't been privy to it, if you weren't at the meeting, you can just say you'll abstain, okay?
Okay.
And you can abstain, whatever votes you want to abstain to as we go through the meeting, just since it's your first shot in the barrel, so, all right?
I appreciate that. I've watched the last 3 meetings on the Zoom and tried to get caught up. So
Oh, well then you should probably be running the meeting.
no, forget it.
No?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept the minutes for the January 13th meeting?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next topic is the voucher approval. Let's go to the screen here. Let me minimize you guys. Okay, so vouchers for February 10th. General fund, there's $118,623. The water fund, there's $12,739. Sewer fund, there's $18,085. Capital projects, there's $16,672 for a total of $166,121. Now, before we have a motion on this, I sent to each of the board members a summary of vouchers to be paid that Nicole puts together. And what this does is it lists one line per voucher in a nice format that I look at. And my question to you is, hang on, somebody's in the waiting room. What's Ted's trying to get in again? Oh, here's Ian. All right. Okay, so I sent this summary of vouchers to the trustees, and I'd like it to be used as a heads up to you, kind of in a summary fashion, to keep an eye on all the expenses. I think when you actually sign the vouchers, it can get kind of tedious. You can get lost in the trees for the forest. And in my mind, something that Kevin suggested is, if we wanted to, I think it's okay for a trustee to say, basically sign the last page as recognition that they have reviewed and approved the vouchers therein. Any comments from the trustees about that?
I think it's a great idea.
I mean, the idea would be to make it optional. So for example, Mike specifically said he likes to go through the actual, feel the paper of the voucher and the receipts and stuff, and that's fine. But especially in Kevin's situation, it'd be nice to be able to do that remote. And he has the oversight of what's going on. And if he has any questions or comments, he can bring it up either now or at his convenience. Any comments from the trustees on that?
I'll just say again that I do like that idea. I was able to go through all the vouchers today. And I didn't have any questions, and I think it would be much easier if we could just sign the last page.
All right, good. So I'd like to, I don't know, do you need to make a motion to this? A motion that per the trustees, preference, either they can sign the individual vouchers or they can sign the last sheet of this package and return it to Nicole as record of having signed and approved the vouchers.
I'll make that motion.
Any second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. In looking at the report, there were just a couple things that stuck out. Last time we met, we talked about the problems with the budget. I asked two things. One of them is that we freeze non-essential spending as much as possible, and that that all non-emergency overtime be pre-approved. And I have to say that I think the group has been pretty good about that, between Jared, Bob, and Sarah, giving me a heads up. Even when I asked for a heads up if there's emergency overtime required. The heads up is to occur after you actually do the emergency, and for pre-notification of any overtime that's not emergency, and that's working pretty well. As far as the non-essential spending, as I went through this thing, I think it's hard for me to say that there's a lot of, I'll say, low-hanging fruit. A lot of the expenses are safety or health related or contractual lease agreements. So there's not a lot of gold in there. I mean, there's some stuff I saw that I'd like the team to keep working on. And this, by the way, is, as we've I discussed with Ted and his team about fire and rescue, that's separate. I want them to manage their budget separately, and they're doing a good job there. And likewise, Scott with water and sewer, that he continues to do the good job he's doing managing that budget. So I'm only talking about, the part of the general fund and what it is in there that's not essential. And again, not essential means not if something breaks, if Bob breaks, if something breaks on the plow, he's got to get it fixed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts of that kind of stuff. So I didn't see a lot of stuff in there that was non-essential that I can complain about. I just would ask the team to just keep focused on it. And there were some frustrating things. I mean, for example, Bob, there's a $1,440 bill in there for mowing back in October, November, but that's water over the dam. Although I do want to look at that as far as the new budget in terms of what we can do to try to cut that back, if not eliminate that contracted mowing work. What do you think, Bob?
Okay. Yeah, we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Bill was submitted late, so that's why it came in on
Yeah.
this,
Yeah. It is what it is. But in general, I like this nice report that Nicole puts together. And what I've asked is that before each meeting, and it may only be hours before the meeting, I apologize for that because she's working diligently just to get all the vouchers together. It just, hopefully that day we can get this report in your hands. You can look at it. And if you have any questions, you can ask the appropriate department heads at the meeting. All right. And the other thing I forward to the trustees is another report. It's called a department head report that she sends to each of the different department heads, which is also, it's another way of looking at expenditures year to date. It shows what was done in the last month, what's done year to date, what the budget is, and where we're off. And so that's a good way also to look at the budget, just to keep an eye on how we're spending and how we're doing versus the year-end target. So we actually have those for each of the department heads. And if the trustees are interested, I can have Nicole forward those to you as well. She sends me the copy. And I can just have you put to the distribution list. All right. So any
Yeah, it's a
questions?
big help.
Yeah. Big help for department heads, I believe it.
Yes.
So any other questions or comments about the vouchers from the trustees? Okay, then I can get a motion to accept the vouchers
I'll make that motion.
in a
I'll
second.
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Now, the next item on the agenda is the budget kickoff and schedule. Now, unfortunately, since I was traveling until last night, I had a brief conversation with Karen, but haven't gone into as much detail as I like. So I put together some notes. I want to just talk about this budget process. So first off, the tax cap is 1.31%. And that means that our tax levy, which was $976,000 last year, can only increase by about $13,000 in the new budget. And as Karen mentioned last time, this is in spite of the fact that we have a lot of contractual and fixed expenses that we've been kind of under budgeted this year and have gone up, for the next year, such as workers' comp and insurance, and even their NDP contract we've got for the 24/7 ambulance service we provide. So we've got to fit all that stuff into this small increase of like 13,000 year to year that's available to us because of the tax cap increase. So that's a concern we're gonna have to address when we go through the budget. The other concern is the other revenue category. And I asked Karen if she could work with Sarah just to refresh the validity of the numbers that are in there for revenue. I'm particularly concerned about the Thorn Trust income, that once we transfer the deed for the Thorn building over to the LLC, we'll no longer have access to that money. And so that's going to impact the A fund revenue story. And so those things together, the fixed expenses that are going up, the possible revenue reductions, and this tight tax cap means we've got our hands full with this budget process. So my message to the department heads is that the goal's got to be to try to make the current year budget. And what I'm thinking of is when you go through the process of rolling your budget, the questions, it's kind of a two-part question. What do you need? And what would it take? What would you have to cut to get back to budget? So with that as a background, here's what I'm proposing as a game plan. First off, Karen and Sarah are going to provide budget worksheets, just like Karen does in Rhinebeck, to the department heads. My question to Karen is, can that be done by as soon as the 19th of February?
Sure.
You think so?
Yeah, as soon as you come up with the schedule of what departments and what meetings you want to have, I can work with Sarah and we can get those right out.
So there's basically 5 categories. We've got water and sewer, that's one. We've got highway, we've got fire and rescue, we've got police, and then we have what's called the front, I call it the front office. It's kind of like the rest of the general fund expenses. So what I'm thinking of is if you could get to the department heads by the 19th of February, could the department heads respond back with the requested budget by the 24th? And the way this would work is that they'd respond in paper, what they want as far as a budget by the 24th. And then we'd have public meetings with all the trustees and the department heads. And I want to do it in like 3 categories. The first would be a meeting with just water and sewer and an executive session that we'd have on salary and personnel. I think we're going to have one of those now and one at the end. And the second meeting would be highway and fire and rescue. And the third meeting would be the police and then the front office. Could you please silence your phones? Okay. So the idea is we'd schedule 3 meetings with two groups per meeting. And I like to do that like starting March 1st, although that's a Monday. And so Sarah, you tell me Monday's not a good day? Sarah?
Wednesdays are preferred for me.
What I like to do is I like to do those 3 meetings before we have our next board meeting, which is the 10th. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take it offline and figure out what the schedule is. All right. But my idea is that we would have, before the next board meeting, we'd have 3 meetings of the trustees with the appropriate department heads. Does that make sense? Any comments about that?
it sounds to me like you're gonna need more than a meeting a week, and you're gonna have to come up with some idea of what days are reasonable for the people to be free to be able to attend the meetings.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of Sarah, Sarah did not have to attend each of the meetings. We just have to have a recording of what was discussed if it's a public meeting, but I wouldn't be realistic to expect her to attend every one of those meetings with her family considerations and that kind of a schedule. So.
All right, that's a good point. All right, let me throw that out anyway then. So given that caveat, can we shoot for March 1st as the first one of those meetings? And I guess I'm asking that question to basically Scott, who I think should be first in the barrel. Is that doable, Scott?
We could probably swing that.
All right.
Put me on a time crunch, but I'll get it done.
Well, okay, so.
I mean, you only got a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and
right.
I gotta get all the numbers together, but we'll make it work.
All right, we'll take a look at it and see if that's a problem. Then we'll work the schedule to fit your need. We need to get the budget in place and ready for public hearing before the 15th of April. All right. And I think that we've got, some revisions we've got to work on. So the idea would be we'd have the reviews, the 3 reviews, which each with 2 of the 6 participants. And then the trustees would work the budget and then have a feedback schedule. So the idea is that we're going to make sure that once the budget is in a rough draft, we get the department heads back together and we take them through what we want to do and we can work on the back and forth then. I want to make sure this year that there is some back and forth between the department heads and the trustees, because there was some feedback about last year that it was a one-way street. We'll make sure we fix that. The other thing I'd like to request is that your submissions, that you align it to the way that Karen and Sarah have line itemed the budget, on the operating report. So I think there were some examples last year where I think, Matt, some of the things you had, I had to add 2 things together to equal what was in the operating expense. So I'd like you to look at that and where possible, please rectify that just so we can do apples to apples, what's reported on the operating expense versus what you're looking in your budget.
Okay.
All right. And I think, Scott, the same thing was true there. I think you had some categories there that were different from what we were using in the operating report. So if you can address that, I'd appreciate it. And by the way, it might be that you say you'd like, Karen and Sarah to revise their categories too. I don't know, whatever you think is appropriate. So if you're okay with that as a kickoff, let me work with Karen and Sarah as far as a schedule. And then we'll get back to you with what the appropriate dates would be. But that's kind of like what I'm talking about, is that later on this month, the department heads are working on their first pass budgets to prepare for review with the trustees together early March. All right. Any questions or comments about that?
So you want us to have a proposed budget done by the 24th? That's 2 weeks from now.
I want to propose budget by the 24th. Yes. Can do.
Okay.
Well, wait, we can't. I want you to do it right. So if you need more time, you got to say it now or say it, later this week. Think about it and let me know. All right.
Okay.
I don't want you to just rush something together and then we find out we've got, garbage we're looking at. You got to go redo it again. So, and same thing with you, Scott. Give me some valid feedback. When is the appropriate time? And of course, the first checkpoint is whether Karen and Sarah can get to you, the budget worksheets. And even there, I'm asking that they do that, a week from Friday, which sounds pretty tight to me too. All right.
We can probably, Tim, we can probably do that pretty quickly. I mean, we've already updated what was spent to date and we have a prior year. So we just need to separate out the departments and email it to each department head.
All right, fine. Okay, good. So if you could do that, then I'll work on the schedule and appreciate feedback from the department heads if they've got issues or gates that they think they need additional time. All right. Okay, let's move on to the standard agenda. So let's start off with fire. Ted, Matt? Let me move them down the chart here. Hang on.
Okay, do we have audio?
You have audio, yes.
Okay, just double check.
Hang on. There you go. There you go. Whoops.
My apologies, I got called into work overtime tonight and my signal here is atrocious.
Okay, your chart's up. Go ahead.
I'll try to get through this. Okay, report for January is on the screen there. Total of 73 alarms, 15 automatic alarms, 4 motor vehicle accidents, 46 EMS calls, 1 service call, 2 structure fire calls, both of those are mutual aid, 1 wire down call, and 4 carbon monoxide alarms. The paid ambulance went out 47 times, and the volunteer membership responded 18 times to assist them. The volunteer ambulance didn't run last month. We went out mutual aid for 3 times for fires, 2 of which were those structure fires, 7 times for EMS, and we had mutual aid in once for fire call and 2 times for EMS call. So, fairly busy month, nothing too unexpected for this time of the year. I don't have much else to report. As far as the equipment, everything's in good shape. We got all the vehicles repaired from their little issues last month and the month before, and everything else seems to be going okay so far.
Haven't had any deers recently. That's good news.
Knock on wood.
Who's responsible for clearing the fire plugs with all the snow?
That's an excellent question. Typically, it's the property owner's responsibility in most municipalities. I don't think, I believe the Village of Millbrook requests the property owners to clear them. And as the various departments have time to address it, we do. The fire department, with some help from the police department, did after the last major storm. And I know the highway and water guys have cleared a few too, where they had time and were in the right place at the right time to do it.
So should we send out letters, warning letter, or notice letters to people who aren't doing this, or how bad is the problem? Is it that bad?
I want to say it was in the flyer, wasn't it, for the water department, for the water bill?
It was.
A blurb about that on that. What's that?
It was, Ted, yes.
There was something on there. Yeah, I believe it is mentioned in there. And we always post a notice on the fire department Facebook page every time, whenever there's a snowstorm, we put the word out. As far as how bad the problem is, it's, it depends on the snowfall. The more snow there is, the more of a hassle it is for the property owner, just like it would be for us too. So.
All right.
And we have a few spots where, it's a larger, sorry about that. It's a larger area, maybe where the property owner for that particular hydrant may not be immediately apparent. Hydrants on the sidewalk like on Franklin Avenue, some of those businesses are owned by one person and occupied by another, so they're, they may not know who's supposed to be.
Okay, so I mean, between you and Bob and Jared, what do you think? I mean, do we need to do anything, or we can just continue to do what we do, which is basically, if they don't do it themselves, we pitch in somehow and get it done?
That's pretty much the way it's gone, up until now.
Yeah. All right, Bob or Jared, any comments?
That's usually the way it's been since I've been around, so.
Oh, okay.
Same, I know.
Some
Officer
homeowners chip in and some don't do anything.
I know when the fire department and the police officer did it a few weeks ago after that last snow, we had several homeowners come running out as we pulled up to their hydrant and say, wait, I'll do it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, so I mean, they're aware, maybe it's just kind of one of those things that doesn't get done until someone gives them a little poke.
All right. All right, let's keep an eye out. If it becomes a problem, maybe we should get to the point of, maybe we need to send some notices to individual homeowners.
Yeah, we'll let you know if that's an issue.
Good. All right, thanks. Any other questions or comments for Ted?
Yeah, if I could, Ted, if you're on, just give me a yes or a no. I'm just going to ask you if certain things are still in service or not in service so that I can check an equipment list here, okay? The 1998 freight liner pumper, still being used.
No, that's been sold.
Okay. The 2014 Smeel pumper,
That one is in service.
okay. The 2009 Smeel pumper,
That one's in service.
okay. The 2004 Salisbury,
That one's in service.
okay. The 2016 Chevrolet Brush utility rig,
Yep, that one's in service.
okay. The 2007 Chevrolet Brush utility rig,
Yep, that one's still here too.
okay. 2014 staff pickup,
Yep, that's the car too.
okay. And the 2009 Chevrolet staff pickup,
That one's been disposed of. It's been replaced by a 2019, same model. Yeah, Jared bought that one at a significant discount from the village.
okay. That's the 2019 Silverado.
Correct.
Okay, now, are there any other pieces of new equipment that I haven't mentioned? Like, we know we just got a new pumper recently. Is that reflected in what I
Correct.
just said?
That's a 2019 Smeel.
Okay. If you could get me some information on that, so I could put it as part of the emergency management plan, so I could update it.
Sure,
And
I'll get you an email this week and we can go over any other equipment questions you've got.
that'd be great. I'd appreciate it. Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, any other trustee comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, Matt, anything you want to say?
No, I'm good on my end.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. Police, Jared?
Good evening, everybody. Up here, you'll see the report for January 2021. We had a total of 110 incidents reported in that time frame, including 7 traffic tickets, 18 parking tickets, 3 auto accidents, 8 vehicle and traffic complaints, 1 disabled vehicle. We assisted other police agencies 3 times, the fire department 8 times, and EMS 13 times. As for criminal activity in the month of January, we did make 2 arrests. We had 2 larceny incidents and 1 criminal mischief incident. Public service wise, we completed 4 vehicle lockouts, 2 animal complaints. We had 4 FOIL requests. We assisted citizens twice. We had 3 civil complaints, 1 lost property, 1 suspicious activity, 1 mental health incident, 1 open door located, 4 burglar alarms, 29 house checks, and 1 juvenile runaway that was located within the hour. That pretty much completes the January 21 report. Any questions?
So first off, I appreciate you spelling out the traffic tickets and parking tickets. So when you say MVSs, PDAA,
Well,
and H&R, what are those?
That should say MVA. It does on the report I submitted. It's a typo in its translation. It's a motor vehicle accident, and a PDAA would be a property damage auto accident. H&R would be a hit and run. And then there's a third category of PIAA, which is personal injury auto accident. The fire department will use the same abbreviations for property damage and personal injury.
All right, I just would ask if you could spell those out. I mean, I think somebody asked me about traffic tickets, and last time I looked at the report, there was an acronym there, but I see now you spell out traffic tickets, and I appreciate you doing that.
This is, I'll be honest, I give the information to Nicole, and she creates this dynamic that you see here, so I'll talk to her about spelling everything out. Yeah, they used to say UTT, which is a uniform traffic ticket.
That's right.
Or
Yes.
MPT, which would be a Millbrook parking ticket, because you can write parking violations under state code also, but Millbrook parking tickets are our own.
Yeah, just be very helpful. Just, not to spell out the whole thing, but, just some abbreviations so we can tell what it is you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate what you did there for the parking and the traffic tickets. That's very helpful. Any questions about the January report? for Jared?
No,
Are the traffic tickets speeding tickets?
Not solely, but they are some. Some, I believe, are cell phones and stop signs. But they're not necessarily all speeding tickets.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the yearly report.
I don't know how much of this, this is the year-end report for 2020. They don't actually add them together because some are. So for the year 2020, the calendar year, not our fiscal year, we did have 1,180 incidents reported. The incident numbers are listed there also. I don't know how much of this you really want me to read because there's a lot of information there. For the year, we wrote 82 traffic tickets, 121 parking tickets, handled 18, or we'll break it down, 25 accidents total. We assisted police, other agencies 80 times, the fire department 76 times, EMS 153 times. The town of Washington, we attended court over there 5 times. As for some of the other stuffs, we made 9 arrests. We handled 22 domestics, 11 larcenies, 9 disorderly conducts, 17 criminal mischiefs, 1 drug overdose, 1 actual burglary, 2 attempted burglaries, 16 disturbances, 18 trespass, 5 fraud, 2 exposures of a person, 10 harassments, and 2 littering and dumping complaints. The rest are single incidents.
Yeah, okay.
Aggravated harassment, juvenile crime, fight, assault, resist arrest, false impersonation, prisoner transport, and warrants issued. On our community service tallies here, we'll hit some of the big ones here. We handled 25 burglar alarms, 33 suspicious activities, 22 lockouts, 2 missing persons, 8 mental health incidents. We did 19 welfare checks, 212 school checks, 4 property checks, 80 house checks. Missing persons on here twice. We handled 7 separate civil demonstrations, and 39 information requests, FOIL requests. I didn't go through all of the numbers there. They are present up there, but it's a lot to.
No,
to go
thanks. Let me ask you this, the town of Washington court, so we haven't been, the court's not been in session, is that true? You've not been stationed on the court, in the courtroom?
The court has been closed most of the year. It
Yeah.
closed down in March. It was closed basically, I believe, from March to September. Then the town had an exposure incident. They were closed for a little while longer. And then the state court system has shut them down through March again.
Oh, wow.
So we should be back in schedule for March, but yeah, we weren't there very much at all this year.
Okay. And the contract we have with them to supply an officer during the court, is that an annual contract or how does that have to be updated? You
Well,
know?
we'll have to look at it. I'm pretty sure it's based on our fiscal year because it's usually based on the salaries of
Okay.
or the hourly wages of the officers.
All right.
So I believe this was our second year with this contract. It may need to be adjusted for hourly wages.
All right. So we make a note that we look at that as part of your budget roll-up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions for Jared?
I just have one more thing. Actually, it's from the January report. Our current Ford is a 2016 Ford Interceptor, and that went in for some repair, and it was about a week out of warranty, and not to toot my own horn, but I did spend quite a bit of time on the phone with Ford and got them to cover nearly half of the repair bill,
Nice
even though
job.
it was out of warranty. So we did incur some expense on it, but it's not for the lack of us trying to make it as reasonable as possible. I know my budget's a little harder. Police work is usually just spend. But I am, and we are trying our best to help everyone keep the numbers as low as possible.
Yeah, yeah, well, that benefit you've got from Ford was like half the cost, right?
Yeah, it's nearly half. I mean, there were some other repairs that wouldn't have been covered. I think the village was total into it about 1,800, and Ford covered 1,400 of it, so pretty close to half. But definitely, it was worth putting the time in on the phone to.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So is it back on the road now?
It is.
Okay, great. And what's the outlook for getting the new vehicle?
That we keep emailing buyer, and apparently the parts that are going into it are trickling in, and they're putting them in as quickly as they can. But I will again reach out to them this week and get an updated timeline.
Okay, so you have no estimated delivery date?
No.
Okay,
And then when it is delivered, it still has to go get wired and lettered elsewhere.
okay.
So for the time being, the 09 Durango is still on the road. She's a bit of an eyesore, but she gets us from A to B, and she starts every time.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions for Jared?
Not a question, but just something that I wanted to, I congratulate's the wrong word, but point out, I think something you did is very important. During our stakeholder meetings, most of the people coming in from the community to share were absolutely blown away by the amount of incidents that Jared and the police force do on a regular basis. And the fact that his numbers for this year are almost the same as they were for previous years, and they ended up over 1,000, was just absolutely mind-blowing for most of the citizens. I don't think 90% of the people in the village have a idea of just how much goes into the amount of work that they do. So something like this incident report that they did for on an annual basis is something that probably should be disseminated in the community, whether it's done through the mails as part of the water bill, or whether it is how it's done, because I don't think it's getting out there just how much work they do. I think there's a very positive and a very good impression that the overall community has with the police department and a good relationship, but I don't think they realize just how much it goes on a daily basis with this group. So I just
Good
wanted
point,
to.
Mike. So I'll make a note to include something with Jared's help in the newsletter, the next newsletter I do. Who's going to talk about the police reform activity? You or Jared?
I have something prepared if it's okay with Jared. I mean, he can chime in anytime he wants, but essentially where we are with the police reform is we've had two meetings, two stakeholder meetings, one in February, one in January. And we now have boiled down the discussions to about 12 to 13 different recommendations that the group put together. The ones that I put down and coordinated today pretty much reflect very much the same things as were suggested throughout the county, but whether or not we adopt all of the recommendations or not is going to be up to the board, obviously. But what I'd like to do is to be able to plan on sending out those recommendations in electronic form to all of the trustees, and then ask that within a week of getting them, that they send back their comments about how they feel about the recommendations. And then within another couple of weeks, I can put together an actual plan that we have to submit to Albany by April 1st. So if we get all of this put together by the end of the month in the form of a plan, we can put it out for the public to review and then for the board to vote on either at the first meeting in March or at a subsequent meeting afterwards. So that's how where we are moving forward.
Okay, sounds good. And this would be worthy of a separate meeting if we needed to, if we didn't make it for the March standard monthly meeting.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on exactly what kind of reaction we get from the community. If the amount of people who responded in terms of wanting to be stakeholders is any reflection, it's not a whole lot of people had a lot of things to say. And I do have to say, through all our discussions, that 95% of what we discussed was completely positive in terms of notices about the police department and everything about them. So that's
All right,
good to hear.
good. All right, very good. And Jared, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Mike's got it covered. Mr. Herzog's got it covered. I look forward to hammering out this plan and getting it rolling and doing what we have to do to get it submitted before April 1st. Again, I was a pleasure to sit on that board and to hear things from the community about the work that my officers do on a daily basis. And it was very nice to actually, like Mr. Herzog said, to enlighten them about the things that do go on here. Because we're often in kind of a catch-22 situation where people don't actually know all the things that go on here. So we're not always seem like we're maybe needed. So it was great to actually sit down and do these reform meetings. And finally, Mr. Herzog, I will get you your updated 21 list for the emergency plan for my department before next week.
That'd be appreciated. Thank you, Jared.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments for Jared? Okay, let's move on. Bob?
Yes, there's a couple things on this list a few things that aren't on the list that have occurred since I've handed in that list. We moved some files and did some basic cleanup of the meeting room files down to the basement and did some disposal of garbage from the basement. Continued to pick up Christmas trees through the middle of January. We repaired the village garage furnace in-house. We repaired the 2011 plow during a snowstorm. Repaired an exterior door at the village hall. We also repaired that same plow again this week with something different, where we basically almost had to rebuild it in-house. Repaired the sander on the 2015 dump truck, and also repaired the plow on the 2015 dump truck this week. We removed snow piles from the previous storms, and we had a nor'easter beginning on 2/1 all the way through to 2/2, which accumulated 18 inches of snow. I want to thank my guys and also Matt. We worked round the clock, 27 straight hours, basically sleeping in our chairs when we could. And then the next 6 days were spent dealing with the storm-related issues, salting of black ice, removing the major snow piles from places like the firehouse and other spots around the village. Of course, cleaning trucks, and then coming in for some smaller 1 to 3 inch snow events. The snow total that is up there has increased because of yesterday's 5 inches. It's now up to 49 inches, and which is just about 4 feet. So we've been out there, and as has Matt, keeping up with the sidewalks. Any questions on the snowstorm?
I can't thank you enough for the dedication you guys show to get this stuff taken care of. It just overwhelms me. Thanks a lot. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's been a long couple weeks, well, a long week at least. We also have some good news. We finally have most of the part, well, all the parts for the new truck have come in. I've got a report that it has been painted, and this week they'll be starting to put everything together, and it should be delivered if there is no complications or storms. It should be delivered next week, which will be great because we've been hauling a lot of snow with the old truck, and it's been an adventure. So that new truck will be welcome.
Okay, good.
And that's all I have.
Any questions for Bob?
Bob, I have a question. I know last meeting you said that you decided not to remove the snow from Franklin Avenue to save some money. But I was just wondering, with all the recent snowstorms, are there any plans in the near future to do that? I just had several business owners asking me about that.
Well, it's not my decision because of the cost of it. Most people have been dealing with it very well. It is an expensive thing to take on, especially with how much we've already spent with salt and manpower. I'm trying to save a little bit, and it seems like most of the village businesses and homeowners have been pitching in and keeping it as wide open as we can. It can be removed, but like I said, it's a very expensive task.
So this is to remove the snow, so it gets plowed up on the sidewalk by the state, and then Matt clears a path for the sidewalk, right?
Correct. Which again, I don't know if everybody understands that, but that is a complimentary thing that the village does. It's not something, that is the business people and the homeowners' responsibility, but the village does it as a complimentary. Well, not complimentary, but
Yeah, no, the guys have been doing a great job. It's just as the snow keeps accumulating, it's getting harder and harder to move that as they just keep piling it on top of each other. Cars can't park, and it's just, winter's already hard enough. So people are just sort of asking me.
It can be done, but something you got to understand, between us and the town, we've been working round the clock, and to take somebody, I can't right now ask the town and my guys to work 10 hours overnight because it has to be done overnight.
Right.
And again, it's an expensive, it's an expensive proposition. So if the board decides it's worth it, then it can be done. I just have to coordinate it with the town because we can't do it ourselves.
So we're talking about snow. So the state plows the snow off the street, right?
Right.
And Matt plows the sidewalk. So there must be this pile between the sidewalk and the street, right?
Correct.
And so what are you talking about? You're talking about removing all that snow that's there?
Right.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So you're talking about removing the snow that's between what Matt plows on the sidewalk and what the state plows off of the street?
Correct.
Oh.
Right. I know they've done it in the past, and I just know it's been, I know you guys are working hard to keep everything up, and I'm so appreciative of it, especially on, the sidewalks, and he plows little paths, through the snow for us and the whole bit. I was just wondering, if this is going to keep happening, what is that expense, and what is, can we just sort of, just so we understand that more, maybe for budget reasons and so forth, because, Franklin Avenue with businesses and so forth, it's hard enough in the winter time. So I don't know. Just something I was wondering.
Well, like I said, it would be the board's decision to spend the money.
Okay,
If,
so I guess my preference would be, and I guess I'm wondering, I mean, last time I was down there, I've been gone for a while, but anyway, there were paths dug between the piles, I guess, from the sidewalk to the street. Don't.
right, and the corners are clear.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
I'm just gonna jump in. I will agree that it is very difficult for people to park on Franklin Avenue. You know, if you're driving by yourself, you can hop out, but if you have a passenger, you can't get out of the car.
Right.
So that it does take away business from our businesses in town.
well, it just means that they needed to go to the parking lot or something, right?
Well,
As opposed to parking on the street, if they've got someone in the car that needs to get out.
not that easy to park in the parking lot because they're taken by the people that have to park there because they can't park on the street overnight and they leave their cars there. Maybe we shouldn't discuss it now, but I think we do need to discuss it for the future.
All right, let's discuss, certainly now, given all that he's been doing, that the team's been
Oh,
doing.
absolutely.
Yes, they've done a
Yeah,
great
this-
job. I
They've done a
agree.
great job. I'm
Yeah.
not complaining. I was
Incredible
just sort of
job.
wondering.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, thanks, Bob. You guys have been doing great, and the sidewalks have been great, and the cut throughs and everything have been very helpful. So,
Who does the cut throughs? Do we
Matt.
do those?
Matt has done some of the business
really?
people have done their own. Homeowners have done,
Okay.
some of their own.
All right,
Some
so
of
I
them-
understand the
Can I ask one
concern.
question? Bob, where does the snow get removed to?
Well, that's another problem. That we do have a spot on Church Street, which is a lot owned by the village, that the town and ourselves dump the snow from the trucks. So it's not a long run, but it does pile up there, and we usually station it. The way it's done is that one person is stationed there with a loader, and they push the snow back as the trucks come in and dump it there. It's a 10-man operation basically, and it takes pretty much a good 8 hours, and it has to be done after midnight because we can't have cars on the street to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, Bob, I know we talked late last week about, about the expense. You had said that it would probably cost in overtime and materials, et cetera, between $3,000 and $4,000 just to do that for that one.
No, it wouldn't be that much, but it'd be somewhere in the 2,000 or a little bit more. Depends on how much salt and what we use, but probably somewhere in that range if we base it on what it's cost before.
And you say we use town personnel as well, so it's not just your guys, it's also the town guys?
Oh, no, we couldn't. There's no way we could do it ourselves. They use 5 major dump trucks, the loader, our dump truck, our backhoe. It's a big operation.
So this is just Franklin between Front and Church and between Front and
Pretty much
Friendly?
all of Franklin Avenue,
wow.
the business district.
Yeah, the business district. Okay, sure. All right. I'd like to table that for discussion later. I just am overwhelmed with the overtime you've incurred so far.
sure.
Because we have to pay the town, and they're
Yeah.
working on overtime themselves.
Yeah, sure. And it's usually at midnight to like 6 a.m. kind of a thing, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
we try to start it when the parking curfew starts.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's move on. Let's come back to that a later time. Maybe when things calm down from a snow point of view. Aren't you expecting more snow this weekend?
Nothing major, but possibly Tuesday is the next good size one.
Yeah, and that last time you said nothing major, I think we got like a foot, right? Okay.
Well, yeah, again, it's hard to predict.
My
They're
fault.
predicting one.
My fault for asking.
One-
I want to retract that statement. I did not ask you that. Okay, let's move on.
Saturday to
Bob?
predict one.
No. Okay, thanks, Bob. Let's go on. Scott?
All right. I will start with the water. For January, total produced was 4,267,000 gallons. Average daily flow was 137,600 gallons. Performed all monthly maintenance and sampling. The new water treatment system is online, as everybody knows. And I have met with the engineers to review the operation of the system. And there was a hydrant flow test performed on Franklin Avenue as well.
Nice trend on the water flow.
Yes.
Any questions about water for Scott?
Thank you.
Okay.
And we have a list of things for last year. If you want me to go through that, I will.
Sure.
All right, so we worked on updating the water code. We replaced 5 fire hydrants.
Oh, by the way, the water code, that was not for naught. I still have that on file. I appreciate all the work you did there.
Okay.
And once we get some more money in the bucket that we can afford to do some more code updates, that's going to be high on the list. So that's not forgotten. I appreciate what you did there.
Sure. We repaired 5 fire hydrants, repaired 2 curb boxes, replaced a curb valve at 3423 Franklin Avenue. We repaired a service line water leak on Olden Place. We shut off water to a vacant home on Reservoir. Located 2 water leaks that were repaired by the owners. Repaired the leaking drain valve at the water storage tank. We also installed a new 8-inch valve on the water main coming off of Haight by the storage tank. We painted several fire hydrants, installed 8 new water meters, and we purchased new water meter reading equipment, as well as the new treatment plant upgrade with the whole list of things that were done, as you can see there. I won't go through them all. They're also in the announcement.
Yep. Very good. Any questions or comments?
Just congratulations, because I think the new filtration building is gorgeous. It's been a long time coming, and I know that Scott had a lot to do with being able to make the suggestions and the modifications we needed along the way to come up with what we have now, and it looks great. So good for you.
Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, Scott, let's go on to sewer.
Sure. All right. So for January, we had a total effluent flow of 5,126,019 gallons. Average daily flow was 165,300. Precipitation was 1.4 inches. Performed all maintenance and sampling, and we pumped sludge to the drying bed.
Before we move on, so the drop in flow in January, is that because a lot of people go away, or what do you attribute that
You
to?
talking about water?
You're talking water or sewer?
Sewer, I was looking, well, it could be either, I guess.
Well, it depends, but the sewer drop is because December we had the major snowstorm in the middle of the month, followed by a major rainstorm, which
Oh.
came down to
okay.
the sewer plant
Got it.
all at once. So the flows skyrocketed here.
Mhm.
So we're back to more normal now.
Okay.
Any more questions for Scott? Accomplishments?
Accomplishments for 2020. Worked on updating the sewer code. Installed a new alarm system to monitor the new blowers. Replaced a failed gear drive unit on clarifier number 1. emptied and cleaned both secondary clarifiers. We cleaned 7,963 feet of sewer main. We rebuilt 3 manholes, repaired 3 others, installed 35 inflow protector covers. We cleaned out the North Avenue pump station and installed new floats. Replaced the roof on the lab building and repaired the roof on the blower building, as well as installing new outdoor lights. We painted all the windows and trim on the buildings. Repaired the wasting boxes, performed our annual sewer main video inspections, 9,730 feet. And we completed the annual I&I management report, submitted it to the DEC before our deadline.
9,700 feet, that's almost 2 miles. Like how many miles are there?
I don't have it with me, but we're between 5 and 6 miles of pipe.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes. Yep,
Amazing.
there's a lot more than you think.
Yeah, no kidding. It's the advantage of being underground, I guess.
Yeah.
Any questions for Scott?
Tim, can I add something
Sure.
that I forgot during my report, just because we have the 2 new trustees that might not be aware of the fact that we also plow and sand parking lots behind Morona's, in front of Morona's, 3 bank parking lots, the Thorn Building, the bookstore, firehouse, the water plant, and the sewer plant. And that's all done during those storms.
Thank you.
Yep, good to know. Okay, good. Anything else, Scott?
Nope, that's it.
All right, next topic is mine.
Before we move
Yes.
on, from Scott, do you want to do the sewer rates first, or do you just want me to talk about the asset management plan that Scott's?
Well, go ahead. You can talk about the management plan. Sure, go ahead.
Just quickly, Scott, first of all, let me thank you for moving so quickly to find the data that we were looking for. And we're considering at this moment putting together a 5-year capital plan, or 5 or 10-year capital plan. And one of the biggest pieces of that would be our plan for the water and sewer upgrade. In speaking with Scott, it seems that we actually have a lot of the data, but it does need a somewhat significant overhaul. I think I'm not lying when I say that, or updating, let's put it that way. But Scott has indicated he might be able to pursue that for this budget cycle. So I'll talk a little bit later about why the plan could be so useful for us in planning our budget documents. But I did want to mention, that Scott is prepared to do that. I don't know if, expediting the budget schedule changes your ability to do that too for the budget cycle. But in any event, I think it might be helpful as we prepare our capital budget.
Why wouldn't this be more of a strategic activity as opposed to the budget being a tactical operational thing? In other words, can't we separate the long-term capital plan for what we're doing for the budget?
Do you want to answer that, or do you want? I think we can, actually.
Okay, good.
I mean, it's usually used to help prepare the budget, but we don't have one, so we don't have to do it for this budget.
I mean, I'm thinking maybe doing it in parallel, or at least it could be, if it can be divorced from, at least we can work on that. And that's more like a long-term thing that we can sit and look at even after the budget's in place, I think, right?
We can, and then, but in subsequent years, update it before the budget discussions begin. Yeah, that seems totally fine to me.
Yeah, all right.
And that might take some pressure off of you. I think, we have a lot of information, and certainly you guys would have the biggest piece of any asset inventory we do. So I'd rather see us do it right and try to rush it.
And the charts that you showed me, Vicky, you sent me an email, I think it looks like some stuff you got from Scott. how old were those charts? What's the date roughly when those charts came from?
Are those the ones that I sent?
Yes, yes.
The last update that I had was 2015.
Okay, all right. About
There's
5
stuff
years
on
ago.
there that we don't have anymore. And of course, now we have the whole new water treatment system. So I got to add all that in there as well.
All right.
So
So anyway, I think it's an excellent idea. It's a new way of thinking about this, kind of outside the box, and I really look forward to doing that. I just don't, if we can divorce it from the tactical issues we have in front of us right now, I'd like to do that so we don't give it short shrift.
I think that makes sense.
All right, good.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, moving on. Now let's talk about the proposed fee increase that I'm putting on the table now. What I'm recommending is that we excuse me. Anyway, sorry. So what I'm proposing is we increase the sewer rate 20% starting this coming fiscal year 21-22, an additional 10% the following year, as well as increase the sewer special benefit assessment $10,000 in this upcoming budget fiscal year 21-22. And the reason is because, as Scott's been kind of making the case over the past few months, the sewer treatment plant is very old. We've been making upgrades, and he goes back to 96 when we last updated the overflow retention facility. We've made updates to the aeration system, the dechlor tank, the metering's been improved, but you can see the last significant upgrade we have goes back to 2012. And the system is getting older. And as far as fee increases, it's true that we did make a significant increase to the water fee back in effective January 1st of 2019, which was a move towards helping to fund the filter upgrade. But that's the first increase I'm aware of in the past. I'm going to say over 5 years. Mike probably knows more better than I do. But it's been a while since we've increased the rates in either water and sewer. And it's just not good to try to keep patching this thing together. We need to start talking about long-term. And certainly we've got some capital improvement activities we're working on long-term. But in the meantime, we need to keep the current system repaired, I'm going to say. So if I want to talk about justification, if you looked at last year's budget, we were actually underfunded in sewer by about $58,000 based on the AUD. And as I said before, the cost of maintenance repair is going up every year, especially true as the facility gets older. And last budget, the one we're working on right now, I actually took out $50,000 that was requested by VRI for repair and maintenance of the sewer plant just to make the budget match. All right, so there were things they wanted to do that we said no for this current year, just for the sake of budgeting purposes. Now, our current sewer rate is $7.75 per 1,000 gallons of water usage. And it's difficult to do any benchmarking, although Karen quoted to us the rate from Rhinebeck is $13.50 per 1,000 gallons. So you can see we're significantly below that. I've tried to benchmark other municipalities, and it's not easy to get apples to apples comparisons. A lot of municipalities have large upfront sewer fees independent of whether or not you use it. And others have various rates, including instead of doing it by gallon usage of water, they'll do it by cubic foot of estimated usage, things like that. So it's hard to do an apples to apples, but for the data we know, it looks to me as though we are well under what's typical in the facility, in the area for municipal sewer rates. Now we're talking about doing some future upgrades to the sewer plant that we need, and we're going to go get as much funding we can outside of, from our municipality. We're going to go to the county, the state, and federal if we can. Vicki and Mike are working on that, but I still think we need to start working on building our own reserve funds here after we finish taking care of minimum maintenance. And that's my thought process rationale for why I'd like to increase the sewers. So what I want to do is, as far as the plan, I want to just get the trustees' comments right now on this. Let us think about it for a month and then come back at the March board meeting and propose a resolution. And if accepted, implement the fee increase with the next quarterly billing, which would be in May of 2021. So a question to the treasurer, any questions or comments about that?
A couple of things I'd like to throw in, Tim, in conjunction with what you just said. One of the reasons that you have an investment deficit, I'll call it, where you don't have new money coming in above and beyond the sewer rate, is because when you have new construction, there is a sewer fee that is applied to any new construction, and that's almost like a add-on fee, I guess you'd call it. The last time we had an add-on fee was when we did Greenbrier, and their fee was to be able to, over a 5-year period, they would charge $60,000 to hook up to our sewer system. But when you think about the new construction that may have happened, there's been literally almost no new construction where you've got a building development or things of that nature that would significantly add to the revenue you're bringing in. And that means we've just been kind of like holding our own in terms of the revenue. And the other aspect is that you have to keep in mind that our expenses, just basic operating expenses, our contract with VRI, our expenses in just not doing upgrades and repairs, but just what it costs us to haul away the sludge. Everything right down the line has gone up, but it's one of the areas where we're trying to stay under the tax cap that we've said, well, we're not going to build in a 2% per year increase or a 3% per year increase so that you get a smaller hike. And it probably was foolish on our parts on previous boards, because had we been building in 2 to 3% a year in most of these departments, we wouldn't be looking at suddenly doing a 20% increase. It would have been significantly less. So I think we're going to have to do a little bit of adjustment in thinking in terms of, we have an older facility, and despite the fact that we'll get help, most of that help's going to come in the matter of maybe a 60% match or a two-thirds match, and we're still going to have to come up with the rest of the money to be able to replace major parts of the sewer system. And the last time we invested was, we got a grant from New York State in 2007, and we did $600,000 worth of major work from 2007 to 2014. And the rest of the money that has gone in there has been strictly out of our pocket, with no real extra monies brought from anywhere else. So we have to be looking at grants, but we also have to be realistic to understand that we're just going to have to be putting some of this money in ourselves, and it's not something where we can continue to put it off for the sake of a budget cap. We just can't.
Good point, Mike. I agree with you. And as you see, what I'm trying to do is first just make ourselves whole from the maintenance of the current system, but then start building some reserve for the future improvements we want to do. Because as you said, we're not going to get 100% funding. But by the way, you mentioned something, the idea of an annual increase. First off, this is not a tax cap issue, because this is the G fund. So the G fund revenue and expenses are totally separate from tax cap issues. That's all in the A fund, right? So we can make changes there. We can make changes above the tax cap, because there is no tax cap for the sewer fund. And Karen, please correct me if I'm wrong. Is that true? Karen?
That is correct. You're right,
Okay.
Tim. That is correct.
And by the way, in Rhinebeck, do they do anything like an annual, like they always put on 2%, or anything like? Do they do a constant annual, or they just do it every so often?
They just do it every so often.
Every so often, okay, as needed. Okay.
But
right,
we have other fees. We have new owner fees, and we have like some, every time there's a closing, we'll have like a new owner fee. So
Okay. Well, by the way, we also have we provide sewer to customers that are outside the village. Is that right?
Yes.
And how much leverage, how much is that? I mean, is that a number of, a significant number of people, or is that just a minuscule number?
It's a fairly small number, but it goes back to decades ago when new construction was done and we extended outside of our geographic borders in order to be able to make connections to places like the county infirmary out, beyond the village in order to be able to get sewer and water to them. And, that type of thing was done. We haven't done it in a very long time because we started to realize that our speedies permit would not allow us to continue to expand beyond our borders and still be able to maintain the speedies permit.
Okay,
So, that's kind of the reason that we did in the past but aren't doing it now.
I do want to make sure that, as I see in the water rate, we have a higher rate paid by users of our water system that are outside the village. I think the same thing should be true for sewer. Right?
I'm not sure about that. I couldn't answer that question. Scott might be able to, but I can't.
Scott, do you know?
The water rates outside the town are more than inside.
Okay, and the sewer rate, as I
Okay.
understand it, is the same. Is that true?
The sewer is exactly the same, but if memory serves me right, they used to be more as well.
So I think we need to put that in as well, just for the sake of consistency, that the sewer rate ought to be increased probably even more for those who are outside the village who are using the sewer. All right,
About 30 people outside the village.
30, okay. So it's not a lot, but I think it's just to be consistent. I think we should make that change also. Any other comments from the trustees about this proposal?
I think it seems reasonable. I mean, I'm looking at my water and sewer bill right here, and for a quarter, it's not that much,
Yeah.
So I think to keep maintaining the sewer system, it seems very reasonable.
Okay. Kevin? Vicky?
I'm just going to say that when we raised the water rates, we did discuss that we would have to raise the sewer rates the next year. So it's not something that is a surprise, and it needs to be done.
Okay, good. Vicky?
I have nothing to add. I agree, though. It needs to be done.
All right, so we'll give it a month to simmer. Let the, if you want to spread the word and get any feedback from the residents, but I really want to move forward with this. My question to Sarah, or maybe to Ian, is, does this require a formal resolution, or can I just make a motion at the next meeting? How do I get this in?
This is just to increase the sewer rates.
Yes,
You can do it by motion. You may want to do it by resolution just to explain the basis for raising the rates, especially if you're going to raise outside the village and not inside the village, to make that distinction.
okay, so Sarah, can we work on a resolution to bring to the meeting in March? Where's Sarah?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, good, thanks. All right, if there's no more questions, I'm going to move on. Sarah?
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Evening.
I am here for the treasurer's report. So I'm going to read from the four big accounts that end in January 31st, 2021. So for tax account, the ending balance was $210,710.99. General fund, $19,236.72. Water fund, $56,373.76, and sewer fund, $75,125.99. I have emailed you all the monthly operating statement. I believe you all should have gotten that. Plan to meet with Karen on the 17th and the 24th to work on the budget prep. We had already scheduled those meetings. And then hopefully we can, once we get all that squared away, we will be sending out the spreadsheets. And, well, I guess we have to work out a plan now that we're going to have dates and everything. So
Yeah.
once we get all that straightened out, we will send that information to you. And then going to start doing tax collection prep. That usually happens around this time of year. That's all I have for treasurers.
You keep fading in and out, but I think you said the tax collection.
Yeah, basically, a lot of the banks start reaching out, finding out our information and things of that nature, and starts rolling.
Okay. By the way, this is a question relevant for fire and rescue. Who finds out what is the assessed value of the village property versus the town?
I get a letter from the county.
Okay, for both village and town, or just the village?
I'd have to refer back. I think it's only the village, though.
All right, so we have to go to the town to get their total assessment?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, all right, fine. And on the water and sewers, so the account values you're showing here for January 31st,
Mhm.
that's remaining revenue after you've taken out the expenses?
Correct. Yeah. So that's what's left.
So are those healthy numbers? I guess I'm surprised at how high those numbers are.
They seem, yeah, they seem much higher than they've been. They've been increasingly getting higher. So I can refer back to a few months back if you'd like, and even compare to last year.
Yeah, okay, good. And unless Scott, because as I recall, we've already paid the Bedrock Well annual bond payment, right?
Yes.
All right, so I guess I'm surprised at the size of those numbers there, unless there's something I'm missing. And Scott, your spending has been pretty much on track. I don't know that you're not sandbagging to the end of the fiscal year, are you?
No.
No. All right, yeah, so let's take a look at that and see what's the reason for those numbers.
Sure, no problem.
I mean, it's good news. I want
Yeah.
to make sure it's legitimate.
Definitely.
I see you've got in the bank account, the police vehicle fund, you've got all the loan is in there already,
Yep, that came in.
the 55,000. When I looked at your operating expense report, by the way, I appreciate you sending that up before the meeting. A couple of things I saw. First, my question is, how many pay periods are left in this fiscal year?
For payroll?
Yeah, are there 8 pay periods left?
I that sounds about right. I can give you an exact number.
All right, fine. Because I'm just looking at, how much we paid in professional services year to date versus how much is to go. And of course, I'm always worried about, we're going over, so how much we're going to go over.
Right.
And then when I looked at the revenue section, 2 things that kind of bother me. One of them is non-property tax distribution. Says we're off by 44,000. Can you and Karen look at that? I don't even know what that is. Non-property tax distribution.
That's the Dutchess County sales tax, the quarterly sales tax.
Oh, so is there a reason why we're so far off? It says that we've
So-
gotten 19,000 and that we budgeted 63,000 for the year.
Did you, Sarah, did you record the one that came in on the 29th of January? We just received one recently, and we also just found out that we're getting the growth factor, and I think that should be coming in pretty soon as well.
I'll double check on that.
Okay,
All right, so the question is that a problem or not, or is it just a matter of timing?
okay, we'll take a look at it.
All right, thanks. Well, in general, you're gonna go through the revenues, just make sure we're good as far as expectations, especially for the.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sure.
Tim, just to throw in, when at the meeting that we had with mayors and supervisors last Monday, they discussed the sales tax revenue, and some of the distribution has not taken place because the state's holding on to it a little longer. And they do anticipate a slight reduction, but the reduction is not going to be a huge amount, as you might think. the economy's still been pretty resilient. And the difference between what we're going to be getting in sales tax from this year, at least the county, on a county level, from this year to last year, is supposed to be someplace by around 4%. So if that's accurate and reflects what we can expect to get as a share of that, it shouldn't be a huge number in terms of, a big problem.
All right, good. Let's see, other categories, just FYI, Sarah said that she got a note from Delaware last month. They made a presentation, requested us to fund, I think it was like a certain percent of the cost of the engineering report to do the projection for what kind of sewer enhancements we need to make. And they'd asked for $7,500, and Sarah tells me that now that the actual request is down to 6,000, so that's a little positive news. And update on getting final New York State funds. What is that? Any other questions for Sarah? All right, thanks for giving those reports out, Sarah, and also thanks to Nicole for those invoice reports. Big help.
No problem.
Okay, let's move on. Ian.
I actually have building department.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Just rush me out. No. Building department. Obviously, January is not a huge month for building department. So we only collected $325 and only had 2 certificate of compliances and 2 municipal searches. I have reached out to Regina. She's the secretary for the planning board, for those who don't know. And they do have a meeting scheduled for the 16th, and it's a continuation for a lot line and no ZBA meetings. So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions about the building department?
No.
Thank you, Sarah.
No problem.
Okay, Ian, you're up. I don't need charge.
Yeah, the last meeting, we talked about these 3 trust accounts, Lamont Christmas Tree, Haight, and 9 Partners Trust, and being able to use those funds. And my office did some research into this. I looked into it under not-for-profit corporation law. There is a proceeding when the amount or the value of the funds is less than $100,000. You can unrestrict them by sending notice to the Attorney General's office explaining what you intend to use the funds for. As long as the Attorney General's office does not object in that 90-day period, then you can use the funds for your intended purpose. You're supposed to use the funds or try to use the funds for the intended purpose that they were established for, but you wouldn't be restricted like you are, to using just the income, which is, as you can see, in the statements, is minuscule. So what I would propose at the next meeting, I can prepare a resolution that expresses your intent to use those funds, send that resolution to the Attorney General's office. They have an office in Poughkeepsie, and wait the 90 days. If they don't do anything, then use the funds.
So that's excellent news. Let me tell you, my thought is this, that I don't know that it's right for the village to just take those funds, but for example, the 9 Partners Trust, isn't there a 9 Partners organization that we could just send that money to? And wouldn't that be the fair thing to do? And I don't know about the Haight Trust or the Lamont Christmas Tree Fund, but is there an appropriate organization? In other words, instead of the village actually taking the money and using it as part of our revenue, which doesn't seem right, but are there places we could transfer, give that money to, that they could use it with, sort of an intent of what was in the trust in the first place?
Well, that's part of the problem here. The 9 partners, there are, more than one organization. There's a 9-partner cemetery. There was another organization. We looked into this, and you have to be careful about just donating the funds, because as a village, you shouldn't be doing that.
Oh,
What this would allow you to do would be to use the funds. Again, it should be towards whatever the intended purpose was, but, I don't know what the 9 Partners Trust was established for. If there was some purpose or event that you could fund, you could probably do that, as long as it had a purpose that was related to what the fund was originally intended for.
yeah,
would be appropriate.
like the Christmas tree fund, I can think of how we could use that. But so I guess my question is, anybody on the phone, maybe Mike, do you know the history here that you could justify, taking that money and giving it to some organization that would be relevant?
No, but I think we might want to make a phone call to Joe Rockford and talk to him, in the sense that I know he tried doing research on these, and before we go down a rabbit hole of trying to have Ian or someone else do it for us and maybe duplicate work that's already been done, we should probably talk with Joe and say, what if any paperwork do we have on these funds and their origins before we go ahead and and donate them or give the money away? Because obviously they had some intent when they gave us the money in the first place. So
Sure, okay,
let's see if we,
I can make that phone call to Joe to see if there is any prior, history here that can help us out. But what about the idea of, let's assume he's got nothing there. What about the idea of finding an appropriate organization to donate the money to? We can't donate, Ian said. Oh, so what do we do with it?
I think you need to be careful about just donating the money, unless somehow that's consistent with the intended purpose. I think you're better off trying to use it for something that would be related to what the fund was intended. If you can't do that, or I would just be reluctant to just give it away. That's not something that the village ordinarily should do, is make charitable donations. You risk having that characterized as a gift of public funds. So I would try to look for a purpose or an intent that would be consistent with what the fund was originally established for. If you can't determine that, then I'm sure you can find something that could arguably be related to it. Use it to install new park benches, or there's got to be some public use that you could use these funds for. And granted, it's not a huge amount of money, but a public purpose, to the extent that you can determine it, that's consistent with what the fund was originally established for.
All right. Kevin, any comments about this?
Yeah, let's find out. Yes, find out what the intended purpose was. Maybe we could put it towards sidewalks, something that
Okay,
would benefit the whole community.
so I'll contact Joe, but don't be surprised if I come back and say that we couldn't get to the bottom of it.
Well, I
Vicky? Oh, good.
yeah, I'm sorry. I always say, I think not only Ian's point, but what Kevin just mirrored, if we can find something that is a real need in the village that everyone could benefit from, whether it was sidewalks hit a particularly striking note, then that's something that we should try to put it towards, as opposed to saying we really can't use this and try to give it away. It's just that's there's too many good uses it could go for.
All right.
And
Vicky?
presumably the intent when these funds were donated was that they be used for, you know, for the village, for the benefit of the village. And so if you can't find a specific intent, I would at least try to be consistent with that.
All right. Other trustees, Vicky, your thoughts?
I think I agree with what everybody has said. We need, if we can, to find out what the purpose is. If we can't, let's approach the Attorney General's office with something that benefits the village.
Okay, Buffy, any comments?
No, exactly what Vicky said and everybody else. I think
All
we
right.
have to.
All right, well, actually, that's a better response, Ian, than I thought. So I'll work on this. I'll talk to Joe and I'll let the trustees know what a possible next step is. Good. What else?
The only other thing that I had was the Thorn building and the closing. I did get an email from Alan Rappelier. Josh Mackey had spoken to him earlier today. And my understanding from what Alan conveyed to me is that, you know, the village has spoken to George Whalen about this issue with the MECIC license agreement. And I don't know exactly, Tim, I believe he spoke to you, but I'm not
Yes.
certain who it was.
Yes, I met with him. I met with him with Mike. Yes.
Okay, so that's all I have to report on that. Whatever you know transpired between you and George, you know, they're working on entering into that license agreement. Not certain why it's taking so long, but it is. And
Yeah, he identified two issues. One was the MECA contract, which is between the LLC and the daycare center, MECEC. And then the other is an issue that they've got to resolve regarding the trust funds. And the ball's basically in their court. And I just asked George to, you know, focus on that to get us to a resolution as quickly as possible. And that's what his commitment was, with no end date. So appreciate you following up. And I guess we just have to wait and keep prodding them to get to keep moving. But as far as the village, we've done everything we need to do. We're simply waiting to have a closing. Okay.
okay, and that's all that I have.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments for Ian?
No.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one thing, if the board didn't have anything else for me, I was wondering if I could be excused early. I have another meeting to attend because of the snow last week. I had another meeting that got rescheduled.
Absolutely, no problem.
If
Thanks for
that's
your input, and we'll talk to you next month.
okay, thank you.
Take care.
And
Right.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good
Okay,
night.
board member updates, Deputy Mayor Herzog.
Okay, I'll try to go quickly. I finished updating the emergency management plan with the exception of incorporating updated equipment lists from different department heads. And as soon as they give me those, then I'll put them in the red binder. I'll be sending the trustees a list of recommendations for the police reform stakeholder group. I'd appreciate positive or negative comments forwarded back to me by phone or email by February 18th, so I can begin to put a formal plan together for public review by the end of the month. And a final plan can be voted on at the March 9th meeting or the second meeting in March, with submission of the plan to the state government in Albany by April 1st. So I'll get that information to you. It's not going to be a long thing. There were 13 basic recommendations, so it's basically a couple of pages. Third thing, at my meeting with mayors and supervisors on Monday, when Tim was not able to attend, they discussed the fact that there's another deadline we have to meet, and that's the state wants us to submit a pandemic operations plan to them by April 1st. And what we're really talking about is a plan of what would you do if you had a COVID-19 outbreak, which seems a little late since that's been happening since last March. But they want to know in Albany exactly, probably backdating it, what have you done and what would you do if this happened again? So what they talked about was the fact that there is a template that that has been put out by the Association of Towns that we could use to potentially fill in the blanks of all the things we've done for COVID-19 at each village facility, and be able to write down how we would incorporate that into the same kind of steps if this continued for a longer period of time that's anticipated, or if it happened in the future. But they want that by April 1st. So I think that, Tim, you and I could probably get together, considering we did this already in the last 6 months, and actually put it into effect. It's just we never bothered to write it down in any kind of a form. So,
All right, so wait, you and I have done what?
well,
What did we do?
considering since last summer, we've incorporated all sorts of COVID-19 procedures at the different village buildings, and procedures on what would happen if we had someone show up positive at COVID-19, which has happened twice in our buildings in the last few months, and what we would do about it. I'm just saying, to me, it comes down to writing this down and then telling Albany what we did and what we've done to prevent further problems with COVID-19 or any other pandemic that might come down the road. So.
Okay, so first off, I don't want you to lose focus on the police reform work. That should be job one for you.
Okay.
All right. So I was hoping that some other trustee could pick this up, but you're saying, I guess we should see the template. Let's see the template first. If it's a cut and dried thing, okay. Otherwise, I'd like another trustee to pick up the ball here and take care of this thing, because it's got another April 1st date. Everything's April 1st.
Yeah, I don't. The coming of spring, they're all getting antsy to be able to have something to do. I don't know, but in any case, that's the second one that we have to do. And if it makes you feel any better, the county isn't going to have theirs done until April 1st, so they can't send us anything to help us because they're in the middle of this too. And
all right, so do you have the template?
They haven't forwarded it to me yet. Aileen Rohr in Hyde Park, got on the call and said, Mike, we'll be glad to send you what we're doing so far, and what we've got as as something we're working from. So I'll call her back and say, please send it ASAP and we'll start working on it. We're not talking about making anything really long and long-winded, so this should be fairly simple.
I'd be happy to help with that. I had to do one for our business, for the Board of Health in the state and so forth, so.
Great, thank you, Buffy. All right, so we'll get the template, and if it's really cut and dried, we can just take care of it. Otherwise, I appreciate your help, Buffy, to do due diligence on that. Thanks so much. Okay, good, Mike. What else?
At the meeting, they talked about the fact that Duchess Delivery with the vaccines is asking everyone to fill out a new form in order to be able to be eligible to receive the notes and the availability of vaccines to people already on. They want to use a new form because the latest group that they have included are people with certain morbidities and people who are developmentally challenged, and they need, I guess, that type of information didn't appear on the previous information that they asked for when you signed up. So
first off, I'd like to know, does everyone recognize this, that the county just put out this new form that everybody's got to fill out again? Even if you've registered already, you have to go re-register? Does everyone know that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I saw it and I re-registered, but the comorbidities eligibility is not until February 15th. So the form did not reflect yet, I don't think.
No, it does not.
Yeah,
Have to wait till the 15th.
So again, this was the vaccination information request form you filled out, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
And it also didn't seem like it's the way they're going to do it from now on, that you sit home and wait for them to call you. You still have to scramble. You
right.
try to get a vaccine as soon as possible, and then I don't know who they're going to call.
Yeah, the implication is that at some point they may get to the point where they call you, but you shouldn't wait around for that call. You should be
Right.
working, like you just said, daily checking to see if there's a slot opening up.
The other part of this is that I know I personally complained to the Office of the Aging for people who might not be not that computer savvy, especially people who are 65 and older or 75 and older. And the Office of the Aging was not really very helpful initially, but interestingly enough, a week later, they now have given a phone number out. And for people who want help in filling out the form, you can dial 486-3555, and the people in the Office of the Aging will help, regardless of your age, will help with anyone who needs some having difficulty filling out the form. So if I think that phone number is important for people who who want to be able to do this, because it's one more requirement and they may not be able to manage it.
Yeah, if they're not computer savvy, that's definitely the way they should go.
So if there's an actual phone number, whether,
Yeah.
good luck. I don't know how busy it's going to be, but that's where they're going with it. So there's that. The next thing is I'm working with the planning department. I've been in contact with 2 different people at the planning department in order for us to get a grant to remediate problems with raised sidewalk panels on Franklin Avenue due to tree roots dislodging the cement panels. They want me to take pictures, and they want me to take, visual proof of what's going on so they can verify that we're eligible for the grant. That's been somewhat complicated by the 18 inches of snow we've had on the sidewalks and around the sidewalks, but that's something that I'm working on, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get some decent pictures in the next week and a half. We're not going to qualify for a grant in terms of getting it accepted this year, but this is something that we could have the funds for in potentially 2022 to be able to work on. So that's what I was told to do, and I'm taking care of that.
Good. And actually, yeah, no, that's fine, because we're on a schedule which basically is going to get the engineering work done this year. So we're ready to go and get the money next year to start the work, either next year or the year after that.
Right.
Whatever.
And fine.
It's a long.
And finally, the last thing I have is that you, Tim, and I, and Bob had a conference with a lighting company to see if we could use solar panels to be able to solve the problem of the 2 inactive lights on Franklin Avenue. And they made it clear that that's not going to work, but did say that the way to go is to probably use a particular tunneling device that should be accessible and is what is generally used when you have outdated electrical lines that go underneath infrastructure to get from one pole to the other. So we're going to have to look at that as a potential going forward, a potential way to be able to get those lights activated again.
By the way, is Bob still on the call?
I don't know. I don't see a picture of him. I see Scott where Bob was visually.
No, I see he dropped off. Okay, fine. Okay. I'll talk to him tomorrow. I wanted to find out what was the $600 we spent to repair the lights
Okay.
and the current invoices.
But that's all.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, Kevin.
I just have I spoke with Kathy Shanks. I now will be involved with the Millbrook Restoration Group.
Well done.
They don't meet that often, but I will be there with them. There is a project that I would like to discuss with them, but I won't say it online, but it is of interest to the village, as you know.
All right, very good.
Also, today I was on my first of 3 virtual webinars for Tree City USA. Anybody that would like to sign up to view the videos, it's all done by video except for the last half hour, which is live. And they're going to keep the videos up for 6 months. So if anybody's interested, I can give you the information to get online to view the videos of the speakers. It's people from all over the country that are participating in this. There was a lot of difficulty at the beginning, but then I think they've worked out all their issues.
What did they discuss? I'm not familiar with this organization.
Tree City USA is started in 1976. It is towns and villages and cities who participate, and they have to plant a certain number of trees to qualify. And it's just it's a group that gives a lot of information of what you can do planting trees, what the benefit is for trees to be planted, whether it be to collect, each tree collects a certain amount of water that saves water from going into your sewer system. It cuts down on heat. It adds to the property values in an area. It benefits a business district. It promotes, it encourages people to come down, sit underneath a tree and shop. And there are just many different issues of why you would want to plant a tree.
That's terrific. Thank you.
And isn't the village a long-term member of Tree City USA?
Yes.
Okay.
We've been Tree City, and we have the flag to prove it. We've been a Tree City designee for more than 25 years.
25 years, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you can see the sign driving into the village from the traffic light.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's posted there.
Kevin, I'd be interested in looking at those videos if you send me the link.
Okay, I
Thank
will
you.
send it to you.
Me too, Kevin, if you would.
Okay,
Thanks, Kevin. Anything else?
no.
Vicky?
Well, I was going to spend a few minutes talking about the capital improvement plan, but seeing as we may be putting it over till post-budget, maybe I can talk about it then.
Why don't you just give an overview anyway, just for a heads up for everybody?
All right, well, yeah, I can do this pretty quickly, actually. I should say I got a lot of help from Karen, Scott, I mentioned before, and Sarah's been very, very helpful. So I want to thank them first. So for a capital improvement plan, it's different than the capital budget that we currently have in our annual budget, which delineates our spending for any of our capital needs. What this would do is, first of all, primarily rely on an asset management inventory. Karen was kind enough to share one that's used by Tri-City Sewer, I think, which she also works with. And it's something that VRI had started to do. I think if any of you read the application for the sewer grant that Delaware Engineering is proposing, you'll see that there's a reference there to the plan that they have. It needs updating, as you heard Scott say, but it's important because it shows what our anticipated capital needs are, what we both have and might need, when we purchase the items that we already have, what their useful life is, what plans we might have to finance the replacement of these items, and what years we have to do it in, basically. So in this way, by preparing that primarily for water and sewer, but I think we can cross all the departments who may have longer term needs. We can both, plan these large one-off expenditures that aren't part of our recurring expenses in a way that allows us to optimize any resources we can get a hold of. So not just the grants, but also any borrowing we may want to do. The interest rates have been very low now for a while, and hopefully they'll remain low for at least another several years. So whether it's bonds or installment contracts, or the bans for shorter term debt that we may want to incur, it would be useful for us to know what we have to buy so that we can comparison shop and figure out the best options we have. Also, in terms of the grants that we'll be aggressively looking for, you know, they don't come up every year. So sometimes it would be very nice if we could look at a plan and say, well, you know, we might need that in 2 years, but the opportunity to start pursuing it is this year, because that's when the state or the federal government or the county is offering you the opportunity to compete. You're not going to get access to the money for another couple of years anyway. So it just works in terms of our planning, our capital budget needs. And also in terms of transparency, so that we can all have a better, including the people we represent, a better understanding of the lives of our assets, what assets we own. And I think it's something that will make us better able to prepare our annual capital budgets as well. So I appreciate the fact that you seem interested in going forward. I think most of the data is in the departments. It just is a matter of organizing it. Karen thinks it would be, you know, something that we could relatively easily, nothing is ever easy, organize. And if we can't have something we can work with for this budget cycle, then great, we'll do it for next budget cycle.
Why I really like this is because it's forward looking. So basically, I see a lot of cases where, actually I haven't seen it in the paper recently, but where FEMA gives a grant, you know, for the fire department to get whatever safety equipment, or what other group, there's like other groups, either at the state level or the federal government. Sometimes it's, you know, one of the local representatives or senators gives out money. And it seems as though we have something like this available, so we're forward looking, we can ask for it. Because right now we're kind of like after the fact, you know, the police car is broken down, it's time to get a new one, you know, that kind of a thing. So
right, you can't do that kind of financing.
Right, so if we can look forward, you know, I think we can make ourselves available for those kinds of new funding opportunities that we've not really even been able to consider because of not having this kind of a thing. So I'm really looking forward to having this be put in place and see what we can do with it. So proceed, please.
Okay, yeah, I'm hyped up about this and more than happy to, you know, work with you and the departments
Good.
to get it moving.
All right, thanks. Anything else?
That's all I have at the moment. Thank
Okay,
you.
Buffy, anything for you?
No, I think the only thing is I'd like to maybe talk to Mike a little bit more in regards to the police reform and just what's going on there, because I don't really know much about that. So when you have time, maybe we can sit down and just discuss it.
That sounds great, Buffy. I'll come in and maybe get a cup of coffee and we can yap to your heart's content.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Actually, when you do that, Mike, could you just give her a little show and tell of how to sign the invoices, since we should really do that, just so she has an idea of what's going on there?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, I can come over to the village hall or something and bring you a cup of coffee.
Some way you're socially distanced that you can have a discussion?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
All right, so for me, first off, I called the pharmacy because, you know, the Millbrook Pharmacy did submit an application to be one of the providers of vaccinations. So I called them today just to find out what's going on. The bottom line is they submitted the application, but they don't have any idea yet when they might have vaccinations. The indications they have is that if they do get them, it'll be relatively a small number, like a handful, you know, like maybe 6, you know, a night kind of thing. And so it's not going to be a big number, but just to let you know that they are waiting to get the go-ahead from the county. And so any plans they have are basically TBD. One thing I asked them was, usually when you go get your shot, they want you to wait for 15 minutes. So what's the form? Where are you going to have people wait around in that small pharmacy while you're making sure you don't have any side effect? And their answer is they hadn't thought about that yet. So that's still in the works. Certainly as soon as I get any word that they've got the go-ahead, I'll let you know. But right now it's all TBD. The last thing I've got is I want to make a change to the handbook. So when we updated the handbook, One of the things I put in there was a requirement for personal choice days to be at the minimum 2 hours. And this is based on some personal experience I had in my prior life with people rushing to and fro from work to be able to get back on work in time. And so the 2 hours is the time frame we put in place there, just because I don't want people, breaking their neck trying to get back to work under the 2 hour, well, in that case, it was actually a 1 hour limit. So anyway, I put this in place. 2 hours is what we use at work. I put that in place in the current handbook, but the employees got back to me and said, basically how they use personal time is a lot finer than that. And they do things like if they go to a PT treatment, down here at most. In other words, they feel as though they can manage properly and record in their time card sufficiently when they take personal time as short as a half hour. So based on the rationalization, I'm okay with. My question to the board is, are you okay with making with my recommendation that we change the employee handbook, allowing employees to take personal time in pieces as short as a half an hour? Any comments or questions about that? It's basically responding to a request from the employees, and as they portrayed how it's being used to me in this environment, it seems as though it's not a problem. And it's all recorded on their time sheets as appropriate.
Yeah, as long as it's all recorded and everything, I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Anybody else have a problem?
No, I have a basic trust of the employees that they've, that they're not going to try to use this to game the system. That's not the way they work around here. So
Right. So I'd like to make a motion that we update the employee handbook to change the allowable personal time off to be as short as a half hour. Can I get a second to that motion?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kevin?
I said aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Sarah, you still on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
So could you make that change to the handbook and recognize that as the update we made effective February 10th?
No problem.
And notify the employees?
Can do.
Okay, so that's all I've got. The next meeting is going to be March 10th at 6 o'clock. I'll work with Karen and Sarah to develop what the schedule should be for the budget reviews. Hopefully they will be before March 10th, but we'll see what we can do and then we'll let you know. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn?
Tim, just one question.
Yes.
I know in the past we've had different trustees be liaisons to different departments, and I'm not sure if you wanted to follow up and continue that tradition. But if that's the case, then when they're preparing their budgets, the different heads of the departments may want to be working with a trustee, whoever you decide, just to be able to help clarify how the thing's going to be done. So,
Well, let me tell you my rationale why I don't want to do that.
okay.
First off, we've got two new trustees who've never been through the process before. And so I think it's only fair that they see the whole kit and caboodle. And the second reason is because last time when we did that last year, I felt it was kind of disjointed, that it kind of, you did your thing with Jared, I think. I did my thing with Scott and also with Ted. And we fed it into the mayor. We had the meetings to discuss it. But I didn't get real comfortable with, what you were submitting. You weren't getting comfortable with what I submitted. I think we do it all together, that we all look at the inputs at the same time, then we can share it, discuss it, whatever, and we're all at the same level of understanding.
Okay.
That's my rationale. Any comments about that?
I agree with you.
All right, good.
And-
yeah,
and-
I'd appreciate the opportunity to see the whole thing rather than be siloed right away.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I know we've done it differently in the past. I like to try it this way. And the whole idea is I want it to be very open, to the public as well as to the department heads, but also a learning experience for all of us trustees going forward. So that's my rationale. Okay?
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Okay, good. All right, if there's nothing else, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.